And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
In the New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers. Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Welcome to Chasing the Trophy Fantasy Football Podcast on the Dirty Boot Sports Network. I'm your host, Derek Sanders, coming at you for the Week 5 Waiver Wire episode. Lots to cover on this one, so we'll try to get rolling. First, we're going to open it up with a word of prayer. Lord, just thank you for all the blessings and all the opportunities that you continue to give us through this wonderful game that you allow us to enjoy and talk about and fellowship about, Lord. And just we appreciate all the opportunities that you give us, and just let us lead and be a light for you, and use all these opportunities that we can in some way, sort or fashion, to glorify your name and bring people close to you, Lord. Just please be with Norke, still going throughout her immunization process and building up her immune system. Just be with her through that process and her family, and then also be with Crew Tidwell and his family as he's undergoing the whole situation of the process and everything that he's going through, and just continue to let them just be a testimony for you, Lord, and thank you for all the works and everything you've done in him and Norike's lives throughout these trials and this process for them. And please be with Mama T and the Nord family, and all of Mama T's family as she's entering that later stage of life, Lord, that she's getting ready. She's tired and her body's breaking down, but just be with her and give her comfort and give her family comfort, and just know that you're there with them and with her, and then just let your name be glorified for her, Lord. And just also be with the victims of the Hurricane Helen, and all up on the East Coast, Lord. I think it's like North Carolina, Georgia, some parts of Florida. Not 100% sure all the states. I know there's a bunch of states affected, just a ton of devastation and destruction, and a lot of people lost everything they had, Lord. Just be with these people, and just help them turn to you, and see that this might not be, that there is a plan for them and through this, and help them find ways that they can praise you and glorify you, and that you are with them, and you're going to bring them through this, Lord. Just be with these people and give them comfort and peace about that, and just protect them and all the people that are going and trying to help. Just give them all safety and protection, Lord. Just be with all those involved, Lord. Just thank you for everything you bless us with. And thank you, continue to just show us how great you are, Lord. And just thank you for sending your son to die on the cross for our sins. Just please let us be lights for you, and glorify your name, Lord. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, guys, so Waiver Wire edition here. All these people are owned in less than 60% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Thank you to our sponsors, Big Reed BBQ, Mimi's Children's Boutique, Crown Detailing. Our title sponsor for this episode is Crown Detailing, where they offer mobile car detailing services, conveniently servicing your vehicle at your home or your workplace. They provide various services for cars, boats, campers, RVs, serving the Ruston and surrounding areas. Reserve your spot today by contacting them at 318-474-0859, or find them on Facebook by searching Crown Detailing. And we really appreciate them supporting us, guys. Hey, look, it's hunting season. Your truck's probably going to get dirty. Maybe you want to get it cleaned up after a long weekend of hunting, and you're not going to be able to hunt, but you want it, maybe it's the same vehicle you drive every day back and forth to work. So give Crown a call, set up an appointment, get them to come out. They can clean you up, get you ready for the work week. Same thing with, your kid's vehicle or your wife's. Maybe it's been a real busy time. Football season's underway and she just doesn't have time to go get it taken care of. Call Crown. They can come meet you and get you fixed up. So we appreciate Crown supporting us. and all of our sponsors. And obviously, this is the same process we've been going through for a couple of weeks now. Waiver Wire Pod this today, and this is Tuesday, so before waivers clear, Clay's going to get the graphic out, but this is going to be some explanation on all of my picks for this upcoming week. And then, of course, Start Sit Sleeper Pod and graphic will be coming out later on this week. We hope to get that pod back on track this week, as it's been a crazy couple weeks with life in general. But we're going to jump right on into some news and injury updates that we're going to go over kind of on the fly. First, Bijan Robinson kind of dealing with a hamstring injury, like not an injury, but just kind of inflammation that he's been managing. He's practicing in limited fashion. He'll be fine. But if you see that questionable tag out there, he'll be all right as long as he doesn't make it any worse during practice. A.J. Brown's on bye. Oh, yeah, that's also something else. All right, so a little bit of news, guys. Bye week start this week. Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Chargers, Philadelphia Eagles, Tennessee Titans, all on bye this week. A lot of big fantasy producers in those teams. So a lot of these guys that I'm going to be talking about here in just a little bit as waiver wire additions could definitely be bye week fill-ins for you if you're in a bind. But anyway, going back to injuries, Jonathan Taylor with a high ankle sprain, not considering injured reserve, but I'm sure he will miss a couple games for, he's already missed some before when he was placed. He's had a high ankle sprain before and had battled several issues with the ankle, and I'm pretty sure this is the same ankle that he's had problems with before. It's considered a mild high ankle sprain. He actually come out and said that he thinks he's got a chance to play. I do not think so. I would be looking for somebody else. His replacement's Trey Sermon, who I'm not excited about, but I'll talk a little bit about later on. But that's Jonathan Taylor. Not looking good for him to play this week. Devontae Adams ended up getting ruled out this past week, and with a hamstring injury. And then Antonio Pierce come out and said Monday that it really depends on what he can do this week, and he's kind of described as week to week. But then there's been some beat writers that have let out that this could be the last time we see Devontae Adams play in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform, as he might be looking for a trade at this point in the season. So like I said, that's why I was kind of out on him at the beginning of the year, because if he has a little something like this pop up, he might end up holding out until he can get a trade to a contending team. But that's Devontae Adams. I would not hold out hope for him to play this week. Mike Evans emerged last week. Actually had a decent week, 8 for 94 to touchdown, so very Mike Evans-esque, but come out with a knee and calf injury, was not a participant in Monday's practice, which is not a surprise. They're trying to let him heal up. They play Thursday night. This Thursday, they play at Atlanta, so they're probably going to not practice him hardly at all if possible. I've been watching for Wednesday to see if they give an update on that, but did not practice on Monday. And Tampa Bay has a slew of wide receivers that are out or hurt after this game, which will allude to one of my waiver wire pickups. But Mike Evans out. George Kittle, let's see, had a rib injury during this past weekend, labeled day-to-day, no real new update. He was questionable to return, and then he did return during the game, so he'd probably be okay. But just keep an eye on that. Malik Neighbors come out Thursday with a concussion. Good thing for Malik Neighbors owners, my goodness, is that the concussion was in the fourth quarter of Thursday night's game, and he does not play again till Sunday. And that's Sunday afternoon. So that's plenty of time to clear concussion protocol. Typically, it's like a week with a concussion, but keep an eye on his progress through the concussion protocol, as it could he could definitely be cleared by this weekend. Joe Mixon ended up getting ruled out last week with that ankle injury. They have labeled him as of Monday, day-to-day, but no real new updates, no practice designation yet, but he is considered day-to-day going through this week, which is a lot better than week-to-week is what he was labeled before. Rashee Rice had a significant knee injury during the game. It was initially feared that it was an ACL tear. Well, they have since come out and said that it has not been confirmed, and they are not 100% sure what injury. Like, there's just no confirmation of it being an ACL is what it is, and I really don't understand that. it's pretty clear on an MRI if you have an ACL tear. Either you have a tear, you have a partial tear, or you don't have a tear. I mean, that's really the only three designations there could be. And the MRIs are very advanced enough where that should be pretty clear. So I don't really know what's going on with this here. They should let us know, but obviously he's not going to play this week. But I would not drop him yet, just in case. And if he does get dropped, pick him up until you hear confirmation that he has a torn ACL and he is out for the year. So Rashee Rice definitely not playing this week. Just got to keep an eye on it. Devontae Smith ended up having a concussion, was ruled out, and then they're off this week, so nothing to worry about there. Cooper Kupp was ruled out last week, did not play with that ankle injury, and he has been ruled out for this week also by Sean McVay already. Little Cooper Kupp side note here is I was talking to a friend of mine about this injury with his ankle, that he was a candidate for IR, but the only reason they did not put him on IR was because they can only put so many people on IR, and they have already put so many on a season, like not season-ending IR, but in-season IR, which is only a 4-game absence. They can only put so many, and they are so close to that. They did not want to put him on that because they might need that spot later on. So he's pretty much going to be out for another couple weeks. They just did not put him on IR because they cannot afford to, because they've had so many injuries. Trey McBride ended up getting ruled out last week within concussion protocol. He looks good in his recovery now. He should be back this week, so I would keep an eye on that, but he should be fine. Let's see, going on down. Anthony Richardson ended up leaving last week's game. Man, what and pretty disappointing season so far for Anthony Richardson, which is why Clay and I both told y'all to be cautious with him if you were drafting him as high as he was going. But ended up getting ruled out after only 4 passes. I think it was in the first quarter, and with a hip pointer injury and oblique and abdominal strains. So, I mean, just a slew of injuries for him already. He's considered day-to-day. They said he has a chance to play. Tom Pelissero of NFL.com does say that he has a chance to play Sunday against the Jaguars, but his status is like, they're probably not going to know anything or give any more updates until probably tomorrow sometime. But that's for him. Tank Dell ended up getting ruled out of his game with that chest injury, but he is expected to suit up this week. So Tank Dell will be back, is what they're saying as of right now. Evan Ingram was ruled out with that hamstring injury last week. No new update as of right now, so keep an eye on his practice status for the rest of the week. And then David Njoku ended up getting ruled out last week with that ankle injury, and said they expect him to practice this week, which is really good news because they need all the help they can get in Cleveland. And if he comes back to practice, I think there's a solid chance he gets to play. Then let's see, Austin Eckler, he got ruled out last week. No new update for him for this week. Another big news right here, Nick Chubb will be returning to practice this week, and his 21-day practice window will open Wednesday. So when he starts practicing Wednesday, they have 21 days to activate him. And I think that means, that doesn't mean he's coming back this week, guys, but I think that means they're ready to let him start getting some contact and seeing what happens. So he's got at least 3 weeks where he can come back. So if you got Chubb, hang on to him. Somebody dropped him, pick him up. Raheem Mostert ended up getting ruled out of his game for Monday night. No new update there. Khalil Shakir, let's see, is contending with ankle soreness before his game. He ended up playing. He's got a questionable tag, but no update as of that. Aaron Rodgers ended up getting banged, has some kind of random leg injury during his game. I don't know if that would have saved the Jets offense or not if he'd have been healthy, but he just said his knee feels swollen after Sunday's loss. He just said he feels banged up. He's going to be fine. He's already said he'll play. So there's that. And then TJ Hawkinson, they are going to discuss if he's going to come back to practice or not, but probably not yet. Christian Watson ended up leaving the game after a 1 target this weekend with a high ankle sprain, and there's reportedly that it's viewed as mild and probably not going on IR. But with that, Dontavion Wicks came in and just slaughtered, and that just might be what they need to get going. And I think that he could end up taking that job from Christian Watson with his injuries and him not performing as of late. So be on the lookout for that. But either way, Watson, he'll probably end up missing this week at least. Jonathan Brooks, the Carolina Panthers have come out and said that Brooks will not resume practicing this week. Jaylen Warren ended up getting ruled out of the game on this past weekend with that knee injury. There has been no new update. And I believe that will pretty much be all of the news and updates for this current time. So yeah, there's really nothing else that's significant for anybody. So that's your news, injury updates right there. I went over your bye week players. So let's go and jump right on our waiver wire week 5 and quarterbacks. You know what? They're almost exactly the same. Sam Darnold, number 1, owned in 43.6% of leagues. QB3 on the season, QB8 this week. I'm not going to name off the points because, I mean, he's just out there killing it, guys. Like, he is literally Geno Smith a couple years ago where everybody thought he was washed. He was about to be done. He goes to this new team with all these weapons, and bam, he explodes. And he looks like the quarterback everybody thought he was going to be coming out of college. It's just a testament to the right quarterback and the right system with the right coach can be, a game changer in fantasy and in real life. And Minnesota looks for real, guys. I mean, their defense is pretty solid. They were beating the brakes off Green Bay, and then they let Green Bay back in. And really the only reason Green Bay got back in is because Jordan Love is back, and he looked great also. But yeah, Sam Darnold owned in 43.6% of leagues. Pick him up. He's QB3 on the season, QB8. I mean, he's got a tough matchup this week going up against, let me see. Who was he going up against? I looked at it earlier, and I did not put it in the notes. Apologize, guys. Going up against the Jets this week. But overseas on top of that I think it's Germany. I just know it's an 8:30 a.m. game. But yeah, going over there. So not a great matchup, but man, he has been solid. Like Green Bay had a really good defense he was going up against in that matchup, and he completely dominated. So I like Sam Darnold the rest of the year. I think he's top 10 quarterback easy in this offense with these weapons, especially when Hawkinson comes back. He just got Addison back, which also helped, you could tell, in this matchup. So Sam Darnold, number 1. Hopefully he won't be on this list after next week. Number 2 for me is Geno Smith. A lot of people thought it should be Justin Fields or Andy Dalton. For me, it's Geno Smith because he has been Mr. Consistent so far this season. He's QB8 on the season. He was QB11 then this week. He's not like top 5 quarterback, but he's not going to kill you. Like, he's not going to go out there. It doesn't seem like he's going to go out there and lay an egg. Like, he's going to be consistently right at that low end QB1 for you this year. Great court backup, great streamer for good matchups. And honestly, this week he has the Giants. It's a great streamer for him. I think he's easily a top 10 quarterback the rest of the season as well. We're already seeing some of these guys that were super hyped early on in the season that were ranked above these guys just falling out of the sky, like Richardson and Caleb Williams, and then now Darnold's just taking over. Even Goff has fallen down a little bit. He had a good week this past week though, but and he might be available in some leagues for you. I still like these guys a little bit better, but. Yeah, Geno Smith owning 29.1% of fantasy leagues. To me, number 2, he'll probably won't ever make that range just because he has that stigma on his name. But a new offensive coordinator, all the weapons he has, Geno he's going to be solid this year. So I like him a lot. Number 2, number 3 is for me is Justin Fields. The only reason Justin Fields is not 1 or 2 is because Arthur Smith is his offensive coordinator. And I don't trust Arthur Smith any farther than I can throw him. I don't know how big he is, but he's a human being. He's a full-grown man, and I probably can't throw him that far, so I don't trust him that much. Just because he likes to come in and anything he's got good going in his offense, he likes to screw it up. That's all I can say. A testament to that was Atlanta last year, and now look at Atlanta starting to thrive. Heck, our Saints couldn't even beat them, and they didn't even score an offensive touchdown. But anyway, that's not a sore subject. But Justin Fields coming in 34% owned, QB10 on the season, QB3 last week. He's had at least 6 rushes in every game this year, including 10-plus rushes in 2 of the 4 weeks this year so far. This week he gets Dallas, a great matchup. Usually you think of Dallas as a solid defense. There's a slew of injuries on their defense. They've been struggling all year. Mike Zimmer's a moron, apparently, because you take a top 3-4 offense for the last couple of years, you get their personnel, they get more experience, and then you come in and now they're terrible. Like, the only thing you changed was the defensive coordinator. Yeah, I think it's Mike Zimmer's fault, but that's just me. Anyway, Justin Fields going up against Dallas this week. I mean, he has been solid so far. The only reason, like I said, is Arthur Smith's his quarterback. You just can't, you don't know what he's going to do from week to week. But if he continues like using him in this such a way, I mean, you're talking easily top 10 quarterback. I mean, really, you're talking, he is the Anthony Richardson everybody was expecting, like with the passing and the rushing and everything, and with a team that we thought was deprived of weapons, which obviously we know they have Pickens and Warren and Harris and Freiermuth, but man, Justin Fields is going out there doing it. So I love Justin Fields this week and rest of season. These top three quarterbacks to me are like borderline startable for the rest of the year, and then definitely in good matchups. I mean, you're talking about these. I'd start these three guys over Mahomes right now. Which is crazy to say, but if you look, Mahomes hadn't had in standard league, he hadn't had over 20 points at quarterback position since week 8 of last year. That's a stat courtesy of CBS Sports that I heard the other day. So, and then Justin Fields number 3, number 4 for me is going to be Andy Dalton, owned at 8.8% of fantasy leagues. He was at least 37 pass attempts in the last 2 games. Ever since he took over, they throw the ball a ton. He's got a ton of weapons on a solid offensive game plan and coaching staff there in Carolina with Dave Canales and his offensive coordinator. Dalton's honestly just a great streamer right now for this season. I don't know if I'd rely on him as a starter, but this week he does have a pretty tough matchup in Chicago, who's the number 1 DST against quarterbacks, and that's in Chicago, which not the best place to play as it's starting to get cold, get more windy. They could be a run-heavy game script this week, but it's going to be a true test for Dalton. But if you're in a bind, you got a guy on, he's the only one out there, I think you could do worse than picking up Dalton and starting this week, especially the way this offense has been forming. So Andy Dalton's number 4 for me. And that's going to round out my quarterbacks. Now we're going to jump right on into my running backs, which are just dart throws. As you seen last week, Carson Steele comes out, lays an egg and drops the ball, and now he's completely irrelevant. He's going to have to sell his crocodile or alligator, whatever he's got, just to pay his rent, because they're going to end up kicking him out of Kansas City before it's all over. But number 1's got to be Kareem Hunt. Comes into Kansas City. Everybody thinks he's washed, including myself, because, I mean, all right, if he ain't washed, why would he on a team already by now? Owned in 21.5% of fantasy leagues, comes in, takes over for Carson Steele, who just fumbled the ball because he probably got bit on his hand by his alligator or something, before practice, who knows. But then Hunt comes in, gets the carries, gets 3 catches, mixed in like 17 carries, 3 catches, looks great, looks like the fastest, most explosive running back on the team right now. And honestly, Andy Reid's not an idiot. He comes out there, sees this guy with experience, knows that he can trust him with, Mahomes out there. Kareem Hunt looks like the guy till Pacheco comes back. So he's got to be number 1, because if he's the man running and pass catching in this offense, that is very valuable. Number 2 for me has got to be Rico Dowdle. Everybody's like, why do you keep banging the drum on this guy? Probably because, well, he's 43.3% owned. He had 13.1 fantasy points this past week. So he's been hovering around 45% snap count for most of the season. And then if they just give him 60%, he is going to be in that RB2 range, no problem. I mean, he has been hovering right around 8 to 12 to 13 points every game with 45%. He gets up there 60, 65%, maybe 70. You're talking about easily an RB2. He's by far the most efficient running back in this backfield for the Cowboys offense. He's averaging over 4 yards a carry for the last 3 games. He's had a touchdown catch this last week. He only one catch, but it was 1 catch for 15 yards and a touchdown. All the weeks before, he had multiple catches, multiple targets. With bye weeks coming up, I think he could really help you out. And honestly, if the Cowboys ever get it together and make him the man and just get over this Zeke fetish that they have, that I really think that Dowdle could be a very serviceable fantasy running back. Number 3's got to be Bucky Irving still. Owned at 51.7% of fantasy leagues. The only reason he's not higher is because he's still on about a 48% snap count, just a hair underneath Rachaad White. But they got an equal amount of rushes, 10 to 10 with White. Only White. Bucky Irving got the goal line work. He got the goal line touchdown, but White's getting the pass catches. So in a negative game script for Tampa Bay, I do worry that Bucky Irving's not going to be as involved as Rachaad White because he catches the ball better. But he needs to be owned, and he probably could be played during bye weeks because he has that goal line work opportunity, especially in good matchups for Tampa Bay. Number 4's got to be Braylon Allen, owned in 45.5% of fantasy leagues at a 36% snap count. this past week, which is not nothing to write home about, but he was the most efficient runner for the Jets, where Breece Hall just had a terrible game. The Jets in general had a terrible game, but Breece Hall had a terrible game. Braylon Allen looked like he's looked all year. Not really sure what is going on with this Jets offense, and I don't think Allen is going to take over the backfield from Hall, but it does look like Allen continues to be more involved each week. And I do think Braylon Allen is the most valuable running back handcuff in the NFL without a doubt. So like him a lot at number 4 for a pickup. And then last, but certainly not least, and he is probably least because I don't really like him that much, but just because of opportunity and injury, Trey Sermon comes in at number 5, owned in 2.9% of fantasy leagues. Just an extremely inefficient runner. We've seen it in San Fran. He was highly touted coming out of college. I really don't know what happened to the guy. Maybe he just got fat. He, stopped working hard. Who knows? But comes out of college, goes to San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan can't make him work, so he lets him go. He goes to Indianapolis. Now he gets an opportunity with Jonathan Taylor getting hurt. And I mean, I think he had like less than 3 yards carry in this game. And honestly, he's got to have the opportunity. And we know Taylor will probably miss at least 1 week with the high ankle sprain. Somebody's got to get the ball, and Sermon's pretty much the only one. If you want to know what I expect, I mean, it's probably 15 to 18 carries for like 50 yards, maybe a touchdown. And that's just because their O-line's so good. And I think he's going to have opportunity, but I don't know if he's going to do much. And then as far as the passing game, Tyler Goodwin's there. It's great pass down, running back. And honestly, Tyler Goodwin could be the guy, but everybody's talking about it's going to be Sermon. It's going to be Sermon. So normally when you hear that much smoke about somebody, there's probably some fire there. But don't be surprised if Tyler Goodwin gets in there and gets a passing down work. And maybe if Sermon's bad enough, they just put Goodwin in there, see what he can do. And then especially if Richardson's out, like they're thinking he could be, and Flacco's in and they throw the ball more, Goodwin could be more involved in that as well. So that's just something to think about with Trey Sermon. And then also that's going to round out 1 through 5. But then I got a couple stashes. Jonathan Brooks, if he was let go, pick him up, stash him. Last I checked, 65% fantasy leagues, not expected to be cleared for this week, but still a stash, especially that offense the way it looks right now. Nick Chubb, 77% owned in fantasy leagues. A lot of people dropped him. They were saying that, they're worried about him coming back from this injury. Well, you know what? Now he's about to come back to practice, and we're about to really get some looks on, see what he looks like. And you want to pick him up before there gets clips out there, him truck sticking people, because he's a beast and this offense could use him. So his practice window is going to open tomorrow. You better pick him up before then if somebody dropped him in your league. And that's going to round out my running backs. We're going to jump right on into wide receivers, which is chaos as usual. But there's really some good options this week that I really like. I can't really discern between all of them because really the top 3 or 4 are all solid pickups and could go either which way for you. They all could end up being number 1. But number 1 for me this week is going to be Dontavion Wicks, 9.6% owned. Jumps into a 76% snap count, going from like 20% each week. Christian Watson goes down after 1 target with a high ankle sprain. He comes in, 13 targets, 5 catches for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think I got that wrong on that 28 yards, guys. Sorry. Hang on 1 second. But yeah, so 13 targets, 2 touchdowns. I mean, nobody was really seeing that coming, honestly, and he comes in, tears it up for Christian Watson. And Christian Watson ain't coming back anytime soon. So let's see. Yeah, I had that backwards. 78. Sorry, guys. 5 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 targets. Okay. I got to correct that before I forget about that. But anyway, yeah, so comes in, has a great game, and looks like, honestly, a really good connection with Love. So if he's going to step forward like we expected Christian Watson to do, he's very athletic and looks to be involved in this game plan. Jaden Reed's still going to do what he's going to do. He's going to get about 8 targets or so a game. He's going to probably bust one and get some run plays. But Dontavion Wicks looks like he might be the guy that Jordan Love's got the best connection with right now. So he's number 1 for me, especially with Christian Watson being out. I think he could take this role and run with it. Number 2's got to be Wan'Dale Robinson, owned at 27.1% fantasy leagues. 14 targets, 11 catches for 71 yards on Thursday Night Football against Dallas. 65% snap count consistently, and he's fifth in targets in wide receiver in the NFL right now, and he's only playing 65% of snaps. That's how involved Wan'Dale Robinson is in the game plan, and I don't think he has a touchdown yet. I can look that up, but you know what? I'm pretty sure, just because looking at I've got him in several leagues on my bench, and just looking at his numbers, like all he needs is a touchdown to be a solid wide receiver 2 every week, and he's sitting out there and he's only owned in 27% fantasy leagues. Come on, guys. Like, this is a guy you can plug and play in your bye weeks right here. And, but anyway, he's the second option behind Neighbors in the offense. Like, not the second wide receiver in the offense. He is the second option in the offense. Like, it is Neighbors and then it is Robinson. And they are getting the ball to both of them a lot. He's had a solid 10-point PPR floor every week. And like I said, he's easily a wide receiver 2 with a touchdown. Neighbors was in concussion protocol. If he does not clear, Robinson could really explode, because he could be the focal point and take over that Neighbors role just for a week for them. So, like Wan'Dale Robinson a lot. Number 3's got to be Xavier Legette, rookie wide receiver out of Carolina, owned in 25% of leagues, really touted coming out, kind of a DK Metcalf type build and athleticism, big, tall, fast, just really, really freak athlete. And he's played in 87% of the snaps this past week, just jumped through the roof. I think they just decided they're going to give him a chance, and boy, did he perform. 10 targets, 6 catches for 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they gave him 2 rushes for 10 yards. I mean, the fact, anytime that they start handing the ball off to wide receivers, they're just trying to get the ball in their hands to give them a chance to make the play. Okay. So I'm trying to temper my expectations with him right here, because they have so many mouths. Like, they got so many wide receivers in Carolina, but with Adam Thielen going down, they got one less, but they still got Mingo. They still got Deontay Johnson. They still got their running backs. But he looked really good, and there is a ton of analysts that think he should be the number 1 wide receiver add this week, just based off of how he looked. So, I mean, he's somebody that you might want to take a chance on if you don't get either one of the other 2 guys. And with the way this offense looks with Andy Dalton at the helm, I really think that he could be the big play guy in this offense, with Deontay Johnson being like the possession type receiver. I think Xavier Legette could be like the big play guy for them, kind of like a Jaden Reed type, only a little bit bigger. But yeah, definitely somebody that you need to be looking at. Could be very relevant with Andy Dalton at quarterback going down the field, especially through these bye weeks coming up. So, like Xavier Legette, then number 4 is going to be Josh Downs. Had him on the list a couple weeks ago, took him off because he had okay game, and Anthony Richardson just looked like hot garbage. So, wasn't really feeling it. Well, you know what? Anthony Richardson goes down with an injury. Here comes Josh Downs, 8.8% fans owned, 9 targets, 8 catches for 82 yards and touchdown on a 62% snap count. Increased from last week, 55 to 62%. If Flacco is starting, Downs could be a very solid option. If I knew Flacco was starting the rest of the year, Downs would probably be number 1 for me, honestly. Just because of what he did last year, what we know he can do. He's an explosive. He's a possession and an explosive type wide receiver. Very Jaden Reed-esque as Josh Downs' size and everything, the way they operate, the way they play. Richardson is not near as reliable as a passer as Flacco, though. So, and we did hear that he had good chemistry with Richardson, so it might be something that could pay off if you like both of them. But right now, I've got him kind of a little bit down, because if Richardson comes back, I just don't know where he's going to go, and I just don't want to take a chance on him over some of these other guys if Richardson comes back and then he's kind of a bust. So, but I do think he could be the most productive wide receiver on this team. That's Josh Downs at number 4. Number 5's got to be Tutu Atwell, who just keeps making big play after big play for the Rams. Not super consistent, not a high play. He's got a low floor, high ceiling, but he's owned to 70% of leagues. It's honestly roulette over there with wide receivers in Los Angeles for the Rams, but Tutu Atwell's been fairly consistent. He played 90% of the snaps this past week. He only had 6 targets, 4 catches for 82 yards. 4 catches for 82 yards is solid. He's just been consistently making big plays with the opportunity that he's given, and he's only relevant till Puka or Kupp come back. But if you throw a touchdown in, you're talking to a wide receiver too, especially during the bye weeks. He could help out a ton, and he could be one of those that could blow up and have, an 80-yard run for a touchdown. And with bonuses and stuff, that's huge in bye weeks, can win you a week right there. And I think he's got that ability. He's going to have that opportunity until some of those other guys come back. So they keep putting him on the field. give him opportunities to make plays, I think he'd be very beneficial. And that's going to round out my wide receivers. Then we're going to jump right on into tight ends, a barren wasteland of despair. And that essentially continues on this week because, it just seems like there's a revolving door of different guys each week that step up, and then the next week they suck. And I don't know what to tell you. But Tyler Conklin's going to be number one for me because even though he wasn't that great, he's only on 35 points in fantasy leagues, but he had 8 targets last week, 4 catches for 17 yards, which is terrible. But the Jets offense was terrible. I don't think they're going to be that terrible going forward. And if he keeps continuously getting, 6 to 8 targets a game, I think a lot better days are ahead for Tyler Conklin. So I like him a fair amount better than some of these other guys. I just think that he's playing at over a 90% snap count all year. So he's out there pretty much every game. He's got a tough matchup this week against Minnesota, but I think Aaron Rodgers continues to funnel the ball to Conklin, and I think he can make the best out of his opportunities with those targets. Number 2 for me is going to be Cade Otton out of Tampa Bay, owning 6.2% of fantasy leagues. 9 targets, 6 catches for 52 yards. He's had at least 8 targets in the last 2 weeks. Okay. And he kind of slipped through the cracks last week because I thought it was a 1 week wonder, but then he had 8 targets last week, 9 targets, 6 catches for 52 yards this week. He's always been on the field a lot for them. He's been on the field at least 92% snap count for the last 3 weeks. And then it was like high 80s for week 1. And then he's always been on the field. He's very involved, but he's never been very involved in the passing game. So right now we might be seeing them kind of start to work him into the passing game a little bit more. Also because Tampa Bay had several injuries at the wide receiver. I think Trey Palmer's already been ruled out for Thursday night. So they had a bunch of injuries and then they play on Thursday night. Well, Cade Otton's healthy. And if Baker's going to go out and have to throw the ball against Atlanta at Atlanta, I think Cade Otton could be heavily involved. So we might be seeing him starting to get worked in the offense a little bit more. And with bad as tight end is, you might want to try to get ahead of that with Cade Otton. So Baker's throwing the rock a ton, and I think Cade Otton could get involved more frequently, and that's why he is number 2. Number 3 for me is going to be Tucker Kraft. Everybody in the fantasy world is all over Tucker Kraft. Well, I really don't understand why. He ain't no different than all the other guys that have a big boom week and then they come back and bust. Tucker Kraft has busted the first 3 weeks pretty much. He's played over 90% or around 80 to 90% of the snaps every week, and he just now finally did well. But he's owned in 4.6% fantasy leagues, 9 targets, 6 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. And like I said, he's playing. He's involved. He had a good game. I think this is just another one of those where he has a good game, then he goes back to being mediocre. He might have another good game here in a little bit, but I don't think this is one of those that's going to be consistent all year, especially with all the wide receivers they have. They're talented. So that's just me. But Tucker Kraft's number 3. And number 4 is going to be Colby Parkinson. Honestly, this is just a last-ditch effort. If you don't get one of the other 3, and, there's a bunch of tight ends that are held in your league and you're just looking for somebody because of bye weeks, you're looking for anybody and everybody to plug in. Colby Parkinson owning 34% of fantasy leagues. Last week had 7 targets, 4 catches for 33 yards. Pretty much the average week of what we expect for Colby Parkinson. And, you throw a touchdown in there, he's a solid tight end 1. If not, he's got a decent little floor. But Colby Parkinson, 7 targets, 4 catches for 33 yards last week. There's really not much to talk about except for he's a streamer. This week, he's got a decent matchup against Green Bay, who's allowed a fair amount of points to tight ends. So I would just kind of keep an eye on him if you need help. He's really fringe of relevancy right now. But if you're in a binder in bye weeks, he could definitely help you out and be a solid option, and maybe get lucky he catches a touchdown. So that's going to round out our tight ends, and we're going to jump right on into our streaming defenses, which I got 3 for y'all this week. Number 1 is still Minnesota for me, who has just really been playing well. Owned at 45.7% of fantasy leagues. They're going up against the Jets, who we just seen struggle mightily this past week. But last week, Minnesota had 3 interceptions against Jordan Love and Green Bay, and Only reason they didn't have a lot better of a week because they gave up a bunch of points in the second half for some reason. I think they kind of just got tired of beating down Green Bay, decided to let them back in the game to make it interesting. But I think they get a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers, who does not perform very well under pressure. And especially as old as he is, he's already banged up with a leg injury. They put pressure on him. I think it's going to be an ugly day for the Jets again. And they're playing at home in Minnesota. So I like Minnesota a lot. Number 2 for me is going to be Chicago, owned in 37.2% of fantasy leagues. They're going up against Carolina. Chicago's the number 4 DST so far this year. Minnesota's number 1, by the way. But Chicago's number 4 in DST so far, and they're playing in Chicago, which makes for typically a run heavy script this time of the year, just because it's normally colder weather, a little bit windier, and Chicago's offense is kind of working specifically more on the run game here lately. So I think that's going to slow the game down, less possessions, less opportunities, shorter game because they're going to run the clock more when you're running the ball. So I like Chicago's defense a lot against Carolina. Even though Carolina's been a lot better, I still think with as good as Chicago's secondary's been, they're the number 1 DST against quarterbacks so far this year. And Carolina's run game is not that great. So I think this is just a good matchup for Chicago at Chicago. And I think it's a solid opportunity for them to create some turnovers against Andy Dalton. So like Chicago a lot. And then last but not least, Green Bay. Tough week last week against Minnesota, who is a bang-up offense, but they're back to a good schedule now. They're only owned in 28.2% fantasy leagues at the Los Angeles Rams. Green Bay has had one interception and 2 fumble recoveries last week, so another 3 turnovers added to the pile that they have already. They might be leading the league in turnovers created so far. This Green Bay defense, so just something to think about there. And when you get turnovers, you typically have opportunities to score touchdowns with those turnovers. So I like that a lot, but they're continuing to pile them up. This week, they get the Rams offense is struggling in general at the Rams. And I just think Green Bay's DST really rests the season just like Minnesota's is solid. So like them a lot. And that's going to be the streaming defenses for this week. And then streaming kickers. I got 3 of them for you. One of them was on there last week, and he performed, and he's probably going to be performing again. And that's going to be Chris Boswell for you. Owned, I think, I did not update his ownership percentage. I know it wasn't over 50. Let's see. Yeah, owned in 26.3% fantasy leagues. He's going to be at home against Dallas. I mean, I'm not a big fan of him kicking in Pittsburgh because the weather situation can be squirrely, but he's the number 2 fantasy kicker in the league, and he's been killing it. So Chris Boswell, Austin Seibert for Washington going at home against Cleveland, owned at 5.4% fantasy leagues. He's the number 5 kicker on the season. You know, he's the number 5 kicker on the season, and he's only played 3 games. Yeah, he's been kicking that well, and Washington's offense looks legit, so he's getting plenty of opportunities. And then last but not least, Young Ho Koo found his cleats after they stole his car for Atlanta, playing at home against Tampa Bay this Thursday night, owned at 55.9% fantasy leagues, single-footedly beat the Saints this past weekend. So he's the number 6 fantasy kicker in the league right now, and he's going to have solid opportunity all year with this Atlanta offense in the dome. He's somebody that really should be rostered and kept and pretty much started all year. So that's Young Ho Koo, and that's going to wrap up this Week 5 Waiver Wire episode. We really appreciate everybody that listens, and thank you. Please like, subscribe, download, share our podcast, give us some comments. Let us know what you want to hear more of, what you don't want to hear more of. Continue to look for the graphics on Facebook, and they're going to give pretty much all this the outline. And then if you want to hear a why or explanation, or maybe just like hearing somebody talk about fantasy football and the statistics, feel free, to check out the podcast. So, but we appreciate everybody. Thank you to our sponsors, Mimi's, Children's Boutique, Big Reed BBQ, Crown Detailing. Thank you guys. Be with the prayer request, guys, and just be praying for those folks. And just thank y'all. Y'all keep chasing that trophy. We'll catch you later on this week.
This ain't how it's supposed to be. It should be just you and me.